Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is shown.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good? Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. For episode number 53, we're going to do another Scratching the Surface, a short 20-minute episode on fear chasing and networking. Those are both big things that we did this weekend.
Yeah.
So they're definitely sitting fresh in our minds, and I think we should chat about them.
Yeah, we had Travis Chappelle on the podcast, episode number 48, I believe, not long ago, and he got our minds very wrapped around the power of networking. There's all those sayings, your net worth is going to be your network, or the other way around, your network is your net worth.
Yes.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. We always say get into the right arenas with the right people based on your goals and dreams, so you learn through osmosis. We've been networking a ton to get podcast guests, and this weekend we got invited to a networking event.
Yes.
Yep.
It's very strange to me that when you start focusing on something, you start you start to see the chances that if I wasn't into networking, that would have been a nightmare this weekend.
Yeah.
So I'll let Alan explain a little bit about this weekend, what we did this weekend, and you can go into your thoughts, your takeaways.
Yeah.
And then I'll do mine because they're a little bit different than yours.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to circle way back. So about a year ago, and again, this all has to do with networking.
Remember, we got 20 minutes.
Yes, true. No, don't worry. So Mariana Costa, if you follow our social media, you probably saw her in our Snapchat story and all that, Instagram story this weekend. I met her about a year and a quarter ago at a networking event in Boston. It was a book publishing seminar. Now, her and I immediately hit it off. We connected. We enjoyed that event, but we both also kind of had the same feel about it, that it wasn't like up to par in our opinion. And so we kind of hung out a few times. She mentored me a bit, and we ended up doing a networking event in Boston, which was about 6 months ago or so. iDream International event. We have another one, by the way, in November 3rd and 4th. But basically, we created our own sort of seminar off of what we disliked at the other one. And Matt Ryan met Mariana at that networking event in Boston, which it changed Matt's life. He's in the promo video basically saying you're not the only one who thinks the way you do. You got to get out into these rooms. And Matt and Mariana have been working together now for probably a couple months. That's kind of his mentor. And she invited him and us to a networking event this past weekend at a, $1.5 million home on the Cape?
1.395.
1.395.
Yeah, so 1.4 mil.
I tended to round up.
I did
there
as well, so.
But a very expensive home, super nice, and there was everything. There was Reiki, there was massages, which were unbelievable.
Yeah, I had to get one of those real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. First on the list.
Strongest hands of all time.
Yeah, she was very, very good.
And so me, Matt, and Kevin this past weekend went up on Saturday, left at like 1 or so, got there for like 3 or 4. There's a lot of traffic.
Oh, yeah.
And we went into a room with a ton of people that we don't know. We knew Mariana, and we knew a few of Mariana's team from the event in Boston, but that was a lot of fear chasing for us. And it was awesome.
This keeps blowing my mind thinking about it. If the intention in my head wasn't set that I was going to do a lot of fear chasing, and B, do a lot of networking, that event would not be in alignment with me becoming my best self.
Yeah.
That blows my mind to think that.
It's crazy because now that you've linked up that fear chasing and networking is so important, which is why I mentioned Travis. I think Travis really upped us.
He did.
Like, we were already networking and fear chasing, but it got us.
He opened our eyes.
Thinking, because he had Jack Canfield on, Grant Cardone, and the way he talked about getting in those rooms and how much he grew from each of them. Plus, on the podcast, we grow from each conversation we have. We realize now the why power for networking is far greater than it's ever been.
What did you take away from the event? I know you said you had a couple specifics you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, totally. So I wrote down a few things here. One of the things that I want to mention in this podcast episode here today is Kevin, Matt, and I, when we got home, we started talking about the night, which is so cool.
Oh, yeah, it was awesome.
What were our takeaways? What did we learn? One of the things that we mentioned was that whenever you were kind of uncomfortable, and when I say you, I mean any one of us, when you kind of figured out a way to be comfortable in that discomfort, all of a sudden doors would open in terms of conversations, right? So how many times did you have an awkward moment when you were kind of standing next to somebody and you didn't really know what to say?
Several.
Or needed a day, but then if you hung in there,
Yep.
then something came of it. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
So for me, Matt and I both felt the same energy from the same gentleman, and we both approached him differently throughout the night. That was very big for me because, dude, honestly, like a year ago, if I was in that situation, I would have been drunk most likely. And I did catch a buzz off the free wine towards the end of the night,
Yeah.
but that was after I had already networked and I had already really like fear chased. So I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm happy with what I did here. And I also fear chased a lot earlier in the day. We'll talk about that when it's more my turn. But I think that those awkward moments are just kind of tests.
Yeah, how long can you hang in there? And there were several times where I felt like, so Kevin or Matt would be off networking, talking to somebody, and I'd be kind of alone, sort of sitting in the corner, and I would just kind of go to the bathroom to collect.
Steven Glansberg.
Exactly, like Steven Glansberg. Super bad references. But I would go to the bathroom, even when I didn't have to go,
See,
to
that's
kind of
interesting.
collect myself.
That's interesting to me because I never would peg you as that kind of person. So remember when I was like, yo, I'm going to go grab us a table?
Yeah.
And like you and Matt were like, yeah, man, we'll be right over.
Yeah.
And I just sat there like an idiot for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Then I saw the lady who was doing the massages come in. And I was like, I'm just going to go in the room and ask her if I have to sign up for the list or however I get on this massage thing.
Yep.
So I didn't run away. I almost kind of like ran towards more discomfort.
I think it's important that networking events have those kinds of things. Mariana's really good at setting up
Oh, yeah.
events. I was super impressed with that event in Boston because that was her first one. iDream International, that was their first event. And then like this was really good because there was so many things. There was the Reiki. There was I think there was a makeup section that, Kevin indulged in.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But there was a makeup section. There was like these body oils. There was a silent auction. There was a lot to do. And I think that that's really important and there was tons of food. And I think that's important because there's more to do than just sit there and wait to have a conversation happen.
So I'll give an example of an uncomfortable moment I had. That
Please
way
do.
people can, and I'll try to paint a picture for you guys. When you walk in the house, it's this kind of like you walk into a greeting area, a nice room, big room. You take a left, go down the hallway, you take another left, and you're kind of in the main open space, kitchen, dining room, and it opens up to this giant sunroom that has a bunch of skylights and a wall full of windows.
And like a river in the back.
And a river in the back. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And when I walked in there, this gentleman, Mike, was standing looking out the window. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. This is it. So I walked up to him and said something about the view. Who knows what I said, right?
Yeah.
Who knows what I said to start it.
Yeah.
But there were a couple moments where it was like I could tell that he could tell that I wasn't sure about how it was going to go. But then I just kind of locked in on, you talk to people for a living. This is what you do.
Yeah.
Just talk to him.
Yeah.
Talk to him. I want to hear about him. He's here, looking fly.
Yeah.
And going up to him, I learned so much. We got a potential guest out of it.
Yes, we did.
It changed my mindset because this gentleman has 18 different cars
Yeah.
and an airplane hangar.
And one of the cars has its own agent.
Yeah.
I don't even have an agent yet.
Right.
I asked him, I'm like, can I borrow your car's agent?
Right.
Just fucking around.
And
but
what if I didn't go up to that man,
yeah.
I wouldn't have any of this extra motivation I have now.
Yeah.
And that's strange.
One of the things that I want the listeners to take away from what you just said, because I observed Kevin in this environment, which is always awesome, by the way. The last time we went to a networking event was Lori Harder's event in Boston.
God.
200 women empowered in one room.
Oh,
Kevin picked up the mic and asked a question.
Terrifying.
Lori shouted us out.
Yes.
See, it's cool. You do it, and then things come of it that are awesome, and then it locks in like, oh, that was good. I want to keep doing that. But the one thing that jumped off the page for me when I observed you is that you're genuinely interested in other people. And I think that that's huge. If you want to be good at networking, be genuinely interested. In other words, there's always something to learn from somebody, especially at events like this, because people don't go look at a $1.3 million house for no reason. You know what I mean? Like most of the people that are there to network. They want to meet people. And I think having the belief system within yourself of, number one, I have value to add.
Right.
And number two, they have value that I can extract.
That first one, that I have value to add. Remember when we went to the private island with a password?
Oh, yeah. Private island with a password.
I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel like I felt like I had to go looking for value. This time I felt like no matter what conversation I was in, I was going to be able to bring some value no matter what.
Ooh.
And I genuinely felt that way.
So one of the things I want to also shout out for the listeners here is I think that because you've been so into personal development lately, you've been upping your own value. And you've always had value, but your perception of your own value has increased, and now you know shit. And so you have value, and so that's empowering. That brings a lot of self-confidence.
I felt really good, man. I felt like I belonged there.
Yeah.
And that's...
You do?
A year ago, I
know.
wouldn't have felt that at all. I would have been extremely overwhelmed.
Speaking of which, you mentioned to me, Kevin, that last time at the Private Island event, which was another networking event down the Cape,
Yes.
where there was a password to get on the island, you mentioned that when I would go away and network, you felt really uncomfortable alone, but that this time it didn't feel
No, man.
nearly as bad.
I realized there were still moments where I would look and I'd be like, fuck. Where'd they go?
Yeah.
But it
Referring to
wasn't
me and
like,
Matt.
but it wasn't like, if you guys were gone, it's not the end of the world. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Sue, a nice lady from England came up to me and asked me about my tattoos, and then we went into just this deep talk about personal development and how to get better. And it's like, we always say, this is what we talk about. What we talk about on the podcast is what we talk about all the time. You
All
just
the
put
time.
2 cameras in front of us, 2 microphones,
Yep.
and a shitload of stuff behind the cameras.
Yep.
But it's just like that, man. I basically just went hyper-conscious with every person I met.
I love that too. That's another thing that I noticed about you is that you're the hyper-conscious guy
I
now.
believe this, man. I believe this. Why?
Yeah.
Because I've seen it in you.
Yeah.
I've seen it prominently in myself.
It changes lives.
We have people that they totally have changed their lives
I know.
in months.
In months.
In
Catherine.
I firmly believe that this is the way I want to live my life, and
Yeah.
I'm totally glad we figured it out and we're doing it.
Yeah, you're not just doing a hyper-conscious podcast, you are a hyper-conscious human
man.
being,
Yeah.
and so am I. And Kenshin and I, jeez, call yourself a speecher. Kevin and I, before this podcast episode, we talked about how we want to create a movement of people who are hyper-conscious and more aware of what's going on within themselves and within other people. I always say this, I like to study people.
Yeah.
I like to find patterns, and I like to understand what makes someone tick.
Well, don't we study ourselves? We study ourselves
Yeah.
extensively.
All the time.
Extensively.
And each other, too.
I'm always
Yeah.
thinking. When I'm laying in bed, I'm thinking about things. And,
Yeah.
I'm trying to go deep into my mind of, okay, why did this happen? And
Yeah.
so I'll just go into my real quick.
Yeah.
So...
Can we check the timer real quick? Just because I need to know.
we're 12 minutes in.
Okay.
So
8 more minutes.
I'll hammer this, though.
All
This will go quick.
No rush.
So there is this beautiful girl that goes to our gym. I have seen her there many times and never had the balls to say anything to her because it's terrifying. And for those who don't know and those who do, one of my biggest fears is rejection, especially by women. That's always terrified me. But I'm going to tell you guys this. Wherever you set the boundaries of fear, that is the leash that you put upon yourself. And that is as far as you'll actually let yourself go. I saw this girl there. And I said to myself, if she comes back within my orbit, I am going to approach her, and I am going to ask her out to dinner. And, guys, it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it is. My heart was beating out of my chest, and I told Matt, I was like, you have this moment where it's like, everything's like, no, and you just have to grab it. You have to grab yourself by the throat and just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. And, guys, I didn't go as planned. Like
Yeah.
we're not married, so you know what I mean. She kindly said, "I have a boyfriend. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I have seen you around, and I think you're very handsome." So,
Nice.
what did I say? You're taking a win from a loss.
You said that on the way to the networking event.
On the
You
way
said,
to the networking
take the
event.
victory out of the loss.
Yeah, take the victory
I
out
love
of the
that
defeat.
quote.
Because the regret of not doing that far exceeds getting rejected. How do I know? Because I have not approached her
How many
5 or
times?
6 times.
Yeah.
And
What if you had approached her the first time? Then you would have known, and then you wouldn't have racked your brain over it. You know, it wouldn't have been So
that's what's tough, man. We tell ourselves that our fears are our limits because we created them that way. But when I got on the plane to go to England, planes are probably my first fear.
and number 2 is
Sharks.
sharks.
When I got on the plane, I realized that the biggest thing you can do is just take that step onto the plane.
Yep.
The walk down the runway doesn't matter. Buying the ticket doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Get in the seat and buckle your seatbelt. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
After that, it's out of your control. And that. I don't know, man. It sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But you literally don't have to be afraid of what you're afraid of. You don't.
So that's huge, and this is what it's about, fear chasing. So on the Caroline Zani rep, she's super afraid of airplanes too.
Yes.
And I said, just to bring this down to earth for everybody, like, your fears are literally your limits. And I posted a quote on Twitter not long ago, it's on my Instagram too, that said, your fears are setting your limits. For example, if you're afraid of airplanes, you either stay on this continent or you start falling in love with boats.
Ooh.
So that's a really important thing. So you and Caroline, she went to Italy not long ago,
Right.
and Europe and all that. And she traveled a bunch. She always wanted to. She said that, right? If you go back and listen to the episode, she said that she always wanted to travel.
Yeah.
And she always wanted to go there. She always pictured that. If she did not overcome her fear of planes, she would never have achieved her dream of going to Italy.
Right.
Think about that. Like, that's powerful shit.
And this is what I said to you earlier. I'll say this for the gentleman out there because I don't know the exact way the mentality of a woman is when she goes up to a man. Right? Maybe approaching a man might be different. I don't know. But for the men out there, guys, think of it this way. Unless by some divine miracle, a beautiful girl comes up to you, introduces herself, and you guys fall deeply passionately in love, how are you ever going to meet the girl of your dreams? She could be standing right in front of you. And if you don't approach her, if you don't have the ability to fear chase in that department, you literally are cutting yourself off at the feet.
Yep.
What if your dream is to date a model? And I was thinking about this the other day. If your dream is to date a model, I guarantee you could date a model.
Yeah.
But only if you went out there and asked them.
Yeah.
I don't
And add value to
anybody could.
yourself.
Yes.
And improve yourself.
Yeah, but I mean, that initial step of like,
Yeah.
you will never date a model unless some divine thing happens, unless it's by chance.
Yep.
Unless you're willing to go out of your comfort zone
Yep.
and ask that person
Yeah. And what's
about
the
themselves
worst,
or the worst that can happen
what's the
is they
worst that can
say,
happen?
get away from me, you creep. That's pretty much the worst.
Yeah, and that's most likely not
very
gonna happen,
rarely does
because
that happen.
If you are genuinely interested
Right.
in someone, why would they get pissed?
Right. As long as you do it the right way.
Exactly. So, what else did we want to talk about? How much time do we have? Because I had a few things I wanted to get out here. 2 minutes. Speed rounds, everybody. Speed rounds.
These 20-minute sessions go quick.
They do. So getting into the right rooms is everything. Fortune is in the follow-up. This is something that Mariana said at the speech in Boston 6 months ago.
Yes.
And I really locked in on it because I was like, whoa. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I send Kevin
Yes, I did
screenshots.
notice. I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah. I have gotten much better at this because I think keeping in touch with people is super important in the networking. So it's not just fear chasing at the event. This is something I really wanted to get out for the listeners. It's the follow-up after. For example, you mentioned that we have a potential podcast guest prospect, the guy who has an airplane hangar with 18 cars in it.
Yes, Mike.
And he runs a business, flooring
Yes.
business, right? I don't know if it's international or if it's just America or
I'm
if
not
it's
sure.
just the Northeast.
I'm not sure.
Well, hopefully we'll find out.
Yes.
But you had already followed up with him.
Yes.
I, after the networking event, followed up with a ton of different prospects as well in terms of people that you can meet and learn from, mentors, coaches, you name it. So I wanted to mention that Fortune is in the follow-up. That's something Mariana says.
Yes, she does.
And she's phenomenal at, by the way. So I've taken her example. And speaking of Mariana Costa coming on the podcast on the 30th
Yes.
of this month,
Yes.
which, another thing, always ask. this is another thing I want to mention. We're at a networking event, right? And it's Mariana's event, and she's completely, I shouldn't say overwhelmed, but she's busy AF, right?
Very
She
busy.
needs to be kind of there for everybody, right? And I mentioned to you outside, I was like, all right, listen, like we wanted to get Mariana on the podcast. We've been talking about it for a while. It's time to go get the ask. So I went up to Mariana. I said, Mariana, you know this is coming.
I heard it.
Yeah, when are we getting you on the podcast, right? And I had mentioned it to you outside right before. I'm like, I'm gonna go lock this down. Locked it down, 11 a.m. on the 30th, and we made it work. While you're in person, don't be afraid to ask, especially after you've added a ton of value. People want to help people. People want to find the win-win. And if I hadn't asked Mariana, would she come on the podcast on the 30th?
No.
And
Look at that.
there's the buzzer.
Real quick, before we end, I just want to leave you guys with this. And I just came up with this and wrote it down, so if I was mumbling while Alan was talking, that's why. I really, if you want to succeed with fear chasing, you need to turn your biggest fear into your biggest challenge. I really think if you look at your fear as your limitations, and you have a growth mindset. I don't like limitations. I don't like being limited by anything.
No, me neither.
And I do not want to be that guy who, A, is bad with women, B, doesn't have the balls to approach women, C, is afraid to be in a room with super successful people. I don't want to be any of those things.
Yep.
So when I say turn your biggest fear into your biggest challenge, that means if you're willing to better yourself, you want to better everything.
Yep.
You want to better everything. And there are going to be certain things, certain arenas, certain avenues, certain thoughts that drive you crazy that you don't think you can overcome. But those are the things you need to overcome.
Yep.
Because if you don't, they're going to control your fucking life. They did for me for a long time, guys. And I don't want you to live like that.
That is so, so, so important. I posted something today, and I said this, and this is what I will leave you with because I know we have to go. If you had a friend who broke as many...
Great post today, brother. Great post.
Thank you. If you had a friend, for all the listeners out there right now, if you had
Listen to this.
If you had a friend who broke as many promises with you as you have broken to yourself, how much would you value that friendship? If you want to hold value to yourself, feel good about yourself, have self-esteem, have self-confidence, have some strut in your motherfucking step, start honoring the promises you make.
I love it.
When your mind says, go talk to that girl, go talk to that guy, do it. On the other side of fear is who you've always wanted to be.
I love it. So like Alan said, we have a very exciting month of podcasts. We have Mariana coming on. She's a next level networker, level everything. Real estate mogul,
Singer.
everything. Then we have Harvey Hook all the way from Australia. He is a next level relationship expert and coach. And that's again, thoughts become things. Alan and I set an intention to sit down with a relationship coach and expert because that might be something that we're not leveraging.
Yeah.
You know, we're not, I'm not that great in that arena.
I cannot wait to pick his brain.
So that's going to be an interesting rep. We're really looking forward to that. And just keep an eye out, guys. Big things are coming, and we're just going to stay focused on changing this world.
Yes, thank you for all of your support, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye. Supposed to do? Stack them?
I
put one down.
I think
something.
I had to keep
What are you
grabbing
doing?
them. My hair fucking terrible.
I don't know.
It's not good.
I don't know what you're doing.
I need a fucking haircut, Kevin.
We'll get one. Hey,
Oh
easy.
my God.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry.
Alan just poured water on
Is
our
that a
pile
shot?
of equipment.
Welcome to the space. I listened to one of your raps or something. Okay. 1 second. I have to get my foot out of this.
Oh, trust me, I know exactly what you're dealing with. Go ahead and talk into that real quick.
Go ahead and talk into that real quick.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh, yes. You're fucking making me question my shit, though.
Well,
This is better.
I think I have to.